Welcome to the Pause Rewind Play podcast. We got the whole cast back out tonight. We're ready to talk to you about movies. DJ Pendejo. If anyone can name that, do you guys know that one? Oh my god, it's from Big Mouth. It's from Big Mouth.
I tried to watch that once, but I couldn't get into it.
It's very hard to watch.
I noticed that it's the same voice for every character, or the same voice actor for
It's Nick Kroll.
Yeah, and I got real tired of it real fast. I was like, okay, that's Nick Kroll. A new character shows up. I'm like, all right, that's him too. And I just could not hear anyone else except for him.
I'm pretty sure he does.
And McElhaney too, right? Is it John McElhaney that's in it?
Yeah, John Mulaney.
Mulaney.
Yeah.
McElhaney. That's
John McElhaney.
Rob McElhaney. That's Fat Max, the actor from Sunny.
Yeah.
That's who I named my dog after.
Wait, really?
Yep.
I thought you were going to tell me it was Mad Mac.
Nope.
Mad Mac.
Max.
It's Max.
No.
Yeah, because your dog's name is Mac.
Yeah, with a hard C.
I was having a hard time right there.
I'm a big Sunny fan, and Fat Mac is like one of my favorite characters of all time. So I was like, this seems like perfect for him.
I like his name. I like him. He's a good dog. He's a good dog.
And I do call him McElhaney quite often.
Do you have a parent tone for him? Is that when you call it his
probably.
full name?
McElhaney, how dare you?
That's like me with my dog. His name is Finn, and I'm like, Finn again. But then my other dog's name is Jake now, and I haven't, because I'm like, Jacob. I'm like, no, that doesn't work.
Well, that's like Juniper. I get really bad at Juniper. June, and her name is Juniper.
I say Juniper. I thought that was what you're always saying.
Nope, Juniper.
Well, there you go.
I have a slur. Actually, you guys want to hear a funny story really quick? Josh knows this story. So it's Christmas Eve-ish at my in-laws' home. And Josh's youngest sister has Josh's wife, a gift, I think, for Christmas.
I finally remembered.
And she walks in all excited, and she has this box, and it opens up, and she's like, it's crafts. Crafts thing, right? And I say, oh, look, a box of crafts. And everyone's like, a box of crap? That's so rude. And
it sounded like you said crap, man.
I have a slur, apparently. I don't know, but yeah, that happened. So I've actually never recovered from that. So I have
Still
to
to this
say
day,
things.
you just got PTSD over it.
Yeah.
Well, even to this day, in our family, we are we'll joke around, and my mom will roll her eyes, and you're like, I gotta go take a craft or something like that, So
gotta go crafting, everyone.
pretty much. So
That's good. I like
Yeah, I didn't realize that I had a slur or a drawl from where we come from until certain things like that come out, and I'm like, what the crap? Where did that word come from out of my mouth? I thought I spoke beautiful English.
If you do, I don't notice it. I'm immune to the accent. Probably because I speak it the same.
Yeah, Vince and I are from the same place. Josh is from the city. What can we say, though?
the big city.
Dude, to us it was a huge metropolis. Going to Provo was a huge deal. And I know you don't live in Provo, but I just want to point out, similar sized cities, big deal. But
yeah.
How you been, Josh? How's life for you?
It's been super solid, just work, watching movies, watching TV, taking care of the dogs, trying to enjoy summer before it's gone, but, all good.
It's almost that hoodie season.
I'm already wearing, it's barely cloudy outside today, and I wore, a nice, long
yeah,
sleeve,
90 degrees.
jacket.
It is cloudy with a chance of meatballs today, so, good call. Actually, I've been missing, hoodie weather, to be honest with you.
It's about that time of year where I start craving it.
It's
which is
about that
weird
time.
because it feels like it just got warm, and now it's
Really?
already. Yeah, I feel like the summer was so late this year.
I feel like it's been hot for 100 years.
Yeah, I have too. I felt like that. But also, I just love, I don't know anyone who doesn't really, but just those in-betweens, right? It's when you're in the winter, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish it was summer. And when you're in summer, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish it was winter. But when you're in those nice spring and fall times where it's not snowing yet, or, where it's just, starting to get warm again, those are just perfect times. And yeah, where it's just cold outside, where you put on a hoodie and it feels nice.
Go to bed with the window open, and you wake up with a nice chill.
I'm ready.
So I have an aunt. Sorry, another personal story here. I have an aunt who, throughout the fall and the spring, and even sometimes in the not the winter, but the summer, they just leave their windows open all the time, like all the way around their house, like full time. And I'm not saying where their house is. I don't want anyone to go break it into it. But it's like the wildest thing. It's like, why? And they're like, it cools our house down. Like our house has better natural ventilation because of it. And then I went and slept there one time, and I was like, holy crap, this is the coolest house I've ever slept in. No AC going, just like fucking nature.
Dude, I saved so much money last spring because of that.
Really?
I turned off the heater, I turned off the air conditioning, and I was just living on cold evenings. And then so you leave the windows open all night, and then you close them in the mornings once it warms up, and it holds the cool air inside the house for a long time.
See,
That's
smart.
why people are here, to get our heating and cooling advice for our houses.
Really, guys, this is the Heating and Cooling Podcast. So here we have it. But let's actually get down to the movie biz you came to talk about. We're going to do a quick run through of what we've been watching, then we'll get to the movie. I want to start this round because Josh saw this the other day on my Letterboxd app that I've been using to watch movies. But I did go ahead and I watched an Australian movie the other day. It's called 2067. Have you heard about this, either of you?
Nope.
I saw it on Hulu. It looked interesting.
It's very interesting, and it's not what I thought it would be, and that's what I liked about it. It was more of like a smaller, personal, like isolated incident. Like you're dealing with a bigger decision of what to do and how to take care of something. So it's a climate catastrophe type thing film, and there's time travel. So it's pretty cool. But the
Subtitles?
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 What do you mean?
Is there subtitles in it?
Australian.
It's
They
Australian.
speak
Australian.
English.
I
Yeah.
thought Austrian. Oh, all right.
It's nope. If it was Austrian, I would definitely need subtitles. I don't speak German, but
you know that reference? Anyone? Either of you? It's Dumb and Dumber reference. Where he goes up to the girl and it's like, it's a beautiful accent you got there. What is it? Australian. No, Austrian. And she's like, oh, well, let's put another shrimp on the barbie. I completely ruined it. Go rewatch Dumb and Dumber. It's a classic.
I haven't watched that movie in so long. But yeah, it was a really good film. The actor is did you guys ever watch The Road?
Yeah, I read the book.
It's
I love the book.
I've read the book as well, but the actor is the boy.
Okay.
So
yeah,
he's older now, obviously. He's an
Uh-huh.
adult, but he's a really good actor. I thought.
Is he who I'm thinking he is? He's an adult now, right?
Yeah, he's an adult now.
Is he still acting?
Who?
The kid that was in The Road?
He acts mostly in smaller things, I think, and some Australian stuff.
Okay, maybe it's not who I'm thinking of then.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Anyway, you liking it though?
I liked it a lot, actually. It wasn't the greatest movie I've ever seen, but it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen. And I was trying to expand my international.
Yeah, Cody Smith McPhee.
What is he in?
He's in Planet of the Apes. He was in Power of the Dog, just barely.
I did not watch Power of the Dog.
The skinny kid.
Yeah, very skinny
the
dude.
skinny kid.
Yeah,
he was Nightcrawler in some of the.
That's
later
what he
X-Men
was in.
movies.
I was trying to think of it because that's where I knew him from. But then, guys, I have to confess to something. A lot of people might give me shade for this. I finally watched Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, and guess what? It wasn't as bad as everyone said. And I think that everyone who's complaining about how bad it is just needs to understand that some of these were released out of context because of whatever happened in the world. So if you go back, watch WandaVision and see what happened, then watch Doctor Strange, it makes sense and plays well, which I did. So I prepared myself emotionally for it. So, because some people said online, I'm not trying to chastise anyone. I'm just saying this is my feeling about it. It wasn't bad. I also loved Zombie Strange.
Me too.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part, was some of that horror elements towards the end. It's the first Marvel movie I think that I've ever seen that I didn't really love the first half and then really, really liked the ending. I don't think that's ever happened in a Marvel movie. Normally it's the opposite, where it's the first half is great and then it turns into a CGI terrible movie.
I definitely
Strange is
agree
the
with you on
opposite.
that, actually. That's a great way to put it, because the first part of the movie, I still had my phone up and dicking around on my phone, right? And then the second half, I was involved, and that's nice in a film. I can't say that I would want it any other way. So yeah, there were some good elements to it. So yeah, that's me. I just want to hand it off to someone else who wants to take it. Who wants it? Josh, Vince?
I knew it. Recently, I've been watching a lot more TV, sort of. So obviously the biggest thing for me was week by week, I've been watching Better Call Saul, the final season. And the finale was just this last just on Monday, I think, like 3 days ago. So, and it was incredible. It was beautiful, and there were so many cool callbacks, and people who came back like for the end of the show who you weren't expecting, and so many cool parallels, and just emotional, and just so many things happened in that final episode, and especially the final season. It was just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so if you like watched Better Call Saul but like haven't kept up on it, I'm pretty sure because normally it was like they would release the new season on AMC and everything, and then it wouldn't be until the next one's about to premiere that it'd be on Netflix. I'm pretty sure I saw something that said they had some sort of deal that like the final season will be on Netflix here in a little while.
Really?
I think. I could be crazy,
so happy. I hope
and
so.
I could be wrong, or maybe I saw it because I know that Netflix, like in other countries, it's basically like it premieres on AMC and AMC Plus at like 7, and then like 1 or 2 days later, it's on Netflix in like other countries, right? And so it could have just accidentally been something like that slipped into my timeline. But I thought I saw something that said it was going to be on Netflix fairly soon. So,
and that goes into our next sponsor, a random VPN company. I'm just kidding.
NordVPN.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
But yeah.
Drink your green juice while using NordVPN.
So I won't go into it, obviously, because I don't want to spoil anything. But it truly is gorgeous. The last season was intense and beautiful, and just like everything Breaking Bad was, with like, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, with like a little less action and everything, but just gorgeous, beautiful character development. And these stories are so simple that are being told, but it's done so eloquently that I'm so wrapped up in these character stories, and I can't wait to see how all of them ended and how it went down. Was just gorgeous. So again, I won't say anything else because no spoilers, but
yeah, don't spoil that. I've watched every season. I've binged every season on Netflix, so I'm doing the same thing. Just gonna wait for it to come out and just jump in and watch them all.
I'm gonna live in ignorance for a while longer, I think.
Have you watched any of it?
I've watched about 9 episodes of Better Call Saul, and
it gets better after season 1.
Yeah, and it's not that season 1 is bad. It takes definitely some getting into. I did the same thing. I watched like 3 or 4 episodes, and I stopped the first time, and then when I did it again the second time, I kept going. It's definitely so worth it. The stories they tell with the characters and introducing new ones, and the way they tie stuff in with Breaking Bad is so genius. Just like little tiny details that you almost wouldn't even remember from Breaking Bad.
Is there a Poyos in there?
No spoilers. But yes. But they just turn into these full-fledged storylines. Nothing is without a purpose, basically. Like, the tiniest little thing from one little detail of one line in Breaking Bad ends up connecting to things in Better Call Saul, and it's amazing. So, no spoilers, but yeah. I would just, give you my AMC Plus since I have it for 6 more days after I canceled it, after the finale, but they do the whole where they only have the episode up on there for like a month or something, and then they take it down. So they only have like the last 4 or 5. Otherwise, I'd totally be like, here, just watch it all.
Another reason not to do AMC Plus.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And I'm not gonna rant on this too much, but I tweeted about this. I was so happy to cancel my AMC Plus because I was like, maybe I'll like keep it, watch The Walking Dead and stuff like that. The user interface and everything is so bad compared to other streaming services. Especially, I have a Amazon Fire Stick. And just trying to use the app on the Fire Stick, I literally had to uninstall, reinstall, sign in every single week.
Wow.
To watch my episodes of Better Call Saul.
See, that's ridiculous.
So bad.
And why I watch Mad Men with ads on Amazon Prime. Just wanted to throw that out there because I've heard the same thing. Because I would, like, everyone has like a comfort show that they rewatch quite a bit in the background. That's Mad Men for me. I really find a lot of solace in the struggles of John Hamm, and I don't know how else to say it. Don Draper, like, is a classic train wreck of a human, so it's great. But sorry to interject again. I
mean, it's all right. My only other thing that I wanted to mention, we can piggyback straight off of that. The only movie besides Prey that I've watched recently is The Town. Have you guys seen that?
Are you talking The Town?
I'm talking about The Town with John Hamm.
Yeah,
right?
and Ben Affleck.
And Ben Affleck.
And Hawkeye.
Rebecca Hall and Jeremy Renner. It was just like, well, because I'd seen ads for it forever on Netflix, right? Like all these things with like the nuns and bank robberies, and I was like, okay, whatever. It's that
Wait,
sort of movie.
We didn't watch that when I was staying at your house with you?
I don't think so.
Holy shoot, that's like one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
Have I told you about this? I
don't
love
think
this
so.
film.
But I just barely watched it for the first time yesterday.
Can we do a podcast on this now? Because like I would love to.
I mean, I just did, so I won't go too far into it then.
But no, please talk about it.
No, but it was very good. I liked it. Like, I think I put it. I'm sorry if this is like offensive now because I didn't know how much you had liked it. I rated it like 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. It's still good. I enjoyed it. I can't tell if you're like.
I'm not upset with you. It's just kind of like I'm surprised. Like, not everyone's favorite film can be everyone else's favorite film.
3.5 is still good though. 3 for me is like, oh, I liked it. I'll never think about it again. Anything above a 3 is like.
It's good.
It was like
oh, I like
I
this
was
more
thinking
than
of
just-
3, but I was like, it's better than that, right? And I was like, maybe not 4 or anything, but I'm also interested to see how, because I've seen obviously how you guys rated Prey on Letterboxd, and we'll get into that.
Yeah,
but,
we'll get into
It was the 4th movie I bought on iTunes. I just want you guys to know that.
but yeah, so The Town, Better Call Saul, and then I'm rewatching Breaking Bad right now as well, and it's amazing.
Jump
So,
right into that.
Yeah,
Does it just flow right into that season or that show?
it just
Because
no spoilers.
Okay.
Better Call Saul, from my understanding, and please, if it's no spoiler thing, it's kind of a prequel to how Saul pretty much became the guy he did in Breaking Bad. Is that correct?
It's all good, man.
That's all I need to know.
All it is
Same
is
with Gus Frame. It's got a lot about him in it too.
Yeah,
How-
and that's the amazing thing, right? Is because there's either some new characters that they introduce that are also fairly like, because it's hard to say main, right? Because Bob Odenkirk as Jimmy McGill / Saul Goodman is like the main character, along with Ray Seahorn who plays Kim Wexler. She's also right there, right? But there's so many of these side characters that are also have their own like main storylines that are still going on that you love. Ignacio Nacho Varga, he's a new one who wasn't in Breaking Bad, but his story going along is incredible. You have more of Mike's storyline, Jonathan Banks. You have more of Gus Fring in there. You have just so much stuff that happens as well that both gives more context to things that happen in the Breaking Bad timeline as well as tell their own different sort of character arcs. Like especially the ones like I mentioned, Nacho's storyline is one of my favorite, and he was a character that we didn't have before in Breaking Bad. I mean, technically they did say his name, which is like where they got sort of his story. When they, spoilers for Breaking Bad, I guess if you haven't seen it, when they take Saul out to the desert and they like threaten him, he was like, no, he was like, it was Nacho, it was him, and he was like, did Lalo send you guys? Like that's
interesting.
that's like what he says, and that's where they got some of these characters was just that one line in that one episode of
That's
Breaking Bad
cool.
that turned into a lot of these things. So, anyways, just if you need just. I know that a lot of people don't love it as much, but it has the same, if not better. Because here's the thing. I still like Breaking Bad more. A lot of people, especially critics, argue that Better Call Saul could possibly be a better series than Breaking Bad. And I still think I like Breaking Bad more, but the character development is truly insane. It's gorgeous. So, and I could talk about this forever, so we should probably stop, because otherwise it'll become a Better Call Saul podcast. I just love how they did everything in Albuquerque. Like, they have scenes that are in places that are not Albuquerque that they still filmed in Albuquerque, and they made it look like different places. And it's just so cool how much they've done there.
Bob Odenkirk had a heart attack while he was hiking around Albuquerque, I learned.
I saw it like last year. Right?
Like last year when they were like
It
filming.
was during filming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy. But Vince, what have you been watching, man?
So I went and saw Bullet Train in the theater. I had a really good time with it. I thought it was a lot of fun, really entertaining. It's kind of got that Marvel humor to it. So if you just want to like go in, turn your brain off. It's very. I mean, it's directed by the guy who did Deadpool. So it's kind of that same like over the top violence mixed with Marvel comedy or that kind of style comedy mixed with kind of a. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. I told you guys earlier, kind of a Marvelized Tarantino vibe. I don't know. I was really entertained. I didn't expect a lot from it. I just wanted to turn my brain off and have a good time, and I had a good time.
Did you watch it in IMAX?
I did. Yep.
Worth it?
Yeah, I mean, you go on a Tuesday night, and it's $6 here.
Yeah.
So.
Who's your favorite character from the movie? Because I've just seen so many actors that I love in it, and so I was wondering who you liked.
So my two favorite characters were Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson. I thought they were absolutely great. Especially, honestly, Aaron Taylor Johnson does fantastic in the movie. Like he does. I've never really liked
He's
that guy very
Quicksilver,
much.
right? He's
Yeah.
Quicksilver in Age of Ultron and Avengers.
And I've never really he's always been kind of one of those guys that's just kind of there, but he stole the show in this one. He was really good. And there's a lot of cameos. A bunch of people show up that I never would have expected, which was a fun surprise every time. It was just a good time. But what I would recommend right now you guys watch is the new Sandman TV show on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch it so bad. It's like on my list to watch this weekend.
I really am enjoying it. I'm a little over halfway through it, and I read the first volume of the comics, so the first 5 or 6 episodes follows that story arc from that one that I've read. So I'm trying to decide if I'm biased and I like that section of the show more because I was already familiar with the story and what's happening now. It's all new to me. But that first section, especially like episode 5 and 6, I think it was, are excellent. Like I absolutely loved them. Episode 5, it takes place in a diner. It's kind of a contained episode. But that comic is one of my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite comics, but it's like one of my favorite stories about a supervillain that I've ever read. It's just really, really, really well done. And then they it's very true. The show is very true to the comic, which is really cool. But they tweak a couple of things to make it a little bit more contemporary, I guess.
I saw that Neil Gaiman said that the show had taken its own path. And he was cool with it type thing. I don't know all the details, but he talks about that because some people are like, there are some things that aren't true, and so.
But it is very true to the comic at the same time. They just kind of tweak a couple of things. Like this story that I'm talking about in the diner, in the first one, it's just a supervillain being crazy. Mm-hmm. And in this one, he's kind of the hero of his own story. You know, he's kind of showing what a world would look like if we didn't lie to each other. And it's really interesting how it plays out. And then the next episode is all about death, and it was so good. And I recommend it. Check it out, because I listened to a podcast with the showrunner, and he pretty much said season 2's not greenlit, and it all depends on if people watch it. So watch it, please, because I would love it.
It's like, I want to watch it.
We didn't come
through. If it gets canceled like my Dark Crystal, I'm going to be pissed.
That's where I was going to say. We didn't come through on the Dark Crystal, guys, so we need to come through on the Sandman for Vince.
Yeah.
Actually, we went and delivered the Dark Crystal movie back to the library the other day because it was rented by your aunt, and we just took it back. So
she got good taste.
Random thing. That's rad. I really have been wanting to watch the Sandman.
Yeah, check it out. It's really good. I've been just kind of watching it like one episode a night for the past week or so. Mm. It's good. It's not like big and flashy and like a normal superhero comic book movie. It's a little more like thoughtful and introspective, and the special effects look really good. It was a COVID show, and you can kind of tell like there's a lot of scenes where it's just kind of like 2 people in a room with a big VFX like background, but it actually looks pretty good. It's creative. It's a lot of imagination went into it. I mean, it's pulled from the comic book, but there's a lot of imagination put into the comic book, and the way that they like transferred it to screen was, I thought it was gonna be a little like CW-y, if that makes sense. When I saw the first trailer,
yeah,
I was like, I don't know. If
that's
I'm
weird
into
that
this.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Or
like,
are you
there was
talking
one
the Arrowverse type CWE?
Yeah, and maybe that's not even like accurate. More like Lock and Key or Shadow and Bone. You know, if you saw those released trailers for those, that's the vibe that I got from the first trailer that dropped for Sandman, and it's not that at all.
Okay.
It's not that at all.
Well, because I actually kind of thought the same. That's sort of why I hadn't watched it, because I'm like, it's not that it looks bad. I'm just like, I don't know if I'd love it, but I'll give it a shot.
It's good. I really am enjoying it. So check it out. That's it for me.
I'll take a shot.
There we go.
But anyhow, should we get to the movie at hand?
I must say, I love how you're like, we'll do a quick little like run around of what we've been watching, and here we are. Like,
it's been 20 minutes. Well, that's what happens when we get talking sometimes. It's like stories and everything like that. Obviously, we started out this movie talking about how to cool your home, or this podcast about how to cool your home. And now here we are arriving to talk about the movie at hand, which is Prey. Obviously from the Predator universe. It's kind of, if I'm getting this right, please correct me, guys. It's a prequel type film, kind of talking about the history and kind of what happened to the folks who met the Predator before
Yeah, it seems like it's the first predator to ever come to Earth. Is the vibe that I got from it, because this predator shows up and he's kind of like going from species to species that he finds on the planet and trying to find like the alpha species, because that's kind of their whole thing, right? Is they travel around, they hunt, and they want to find like the biggest prey. They want to have the biggest challenge and show that they're the biggest badass, right?
Yeah.
So he shows up and he finds like, what is it, a mouse at first or something?
I think it's a snake.
Snake.
Right? Because the snake kills a mouse.
And then he finds the wolf, and then he finds the bear, and he's just like making his way up the chain trying to find like who is the alpha of our planet.
Didn't he take the... Oh, no, he didn't. Never mind. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't know much about the Predator world. I've stuck mostly with Alien.
Yeah, I actually re-listened to our Predators
I was about to say, I was like, we did a Predator movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually talked about that too, about how much you're much more of a fan of Alien versus the Predators.
100%. And it's weird because
this didn't change that at all?
I'm going to talk about that because I actually think so. It may have... my interest is piqued, right? Like, again, like if they can deliver, there needs to be a follow-up to this. I 100% feel like there does. I don't know what the follow-up needs to be, but they need to do something cool and effective and do it well. But like, if I'm going to get into this early, for me, this was a home run of a film. And I'll just say that right now. Like, I'm not giving you any spoilers, but for me, it was a home run. And it had everything I wanted in a film, actually.
Well,
Specifically a Predator film, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just as we stayed just barely outside of spoiler territory before we jump in, I wanted to, in my never-ending quest, I will make my life mission to get us, sponsored by Letterboxd. I wanted to go through what your guys' scores for the film were on Letterboxd, and then we can kind of dive into more spoilers and how come. So, Vince.
Yeah, so I want to start this. I watched the movie on release date. I gave it a 3 out of 5, or 3.5 out of 5, which is the same rating that I gave Predators. And I remember sitting there that night and trying to decide which one I liked better. Did I like Predators better? Did I like this Prey better? And not really coming to a decision. Honestly, I think when I talked about it, I told people I like Predators better. Mm-hmm. But I watched it again last night, Prey. Not so focused as I was this time around. Just kind of had it on in the background while I was doing stuff, and then like.
Just kind of remember stuff.
Yeah, and it takes off. That last half of the movie just like takes off, and from the moment that the Predator really shows up, the movie gets really, really good. So I've been thinking about it all day, and I don't know. I haven't decided yet if I underrated it. 3.5 feels a little low. I might move it up to a 4. I can't decide if I like it better than Predators, but I kind of like. There's so many things that it did better than any of the other ones. I love the freaking Predator in this one, and the scenes in this one are some of the best Predator scenes that you can get. But I remember being a little bit slow at the beginning, and a big reason that I like rated this one lower was because the CGI, the VFX were not up to par. Like, they straight up weren't. The animals look bad. The VFX on the Predator's face when he took his mask off didn't look great. Looks fine on my little iPad, but when I had it up on my big HDR TV, there's like those things where I was just like, I can tell this is straight to video, straight to streaming. If they would have put some more money into it and fixed all these VFX, then it probably would have gotten a step up, So I don't know, I'm nitpicking, but the story itself and the action scenes that weren't VFX heavy are some of the best Predator we've ever had.
We got to talk to Mr. Letterboxd to let you rated a 3.75 in between the two. Maybe not all the way up to 4.
So I'm like right there. It might lean up to more of a 4. I mean, it probably does.
Casey.
I gave it 4 stars. Yeah. I think it was memorable in a good way. 100% agree with you. These were the best scenes I've ever seen out of a Predator. Like the fighting, the style. Sure, there are a few like, okay, you need to touch it up a little bit better. But I felt like the way that they showed the Predator moving, like so many things, and just how it interacted with the environment, loved it. I also really enjoyed the story, the time period that they did it in, which we'll get into a little bit more. But it created kind of like a sense, like, right, when we watched Predators, right, was what we did. Mm-hmm. I'm having a brain
Predator
right now.
3, Predators, yeah.
Yeah, whatever that one was. It was interesting because they kind of like showed some like history in that, like on there, kind of like people who had been dropped in or things that have been dropped in through the years. So it's cool to kind of see that interesting 1700s Predator's here to investigate and scour the earth and find the biggest baddie, and I like that.
And I gotta say, sorry, just
You're fine.
real quick, the VFX were bad when they needed to use the VFX. But the thing that made this movie special is how much practicality they used.
Yep.
And that's what made the fight scenes with the Predators so cool, is they did not lean at all on these like giant fake Predators like the last one that came out. There were just like so much CGI throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like these were like practical effects. I think that's what made like the little things stand out so bad. Is like
because it's pretty low budget, right?
Yeah,
this
I think
movie because it went straight to streaming. Yeah. Well, so I started following the guy. His name is Dan DiLiegro, I think, is the guy who they had who did the Predator stuff, right? Who was the Predator in the movie. And they obviously had like this whole huge suit on him and makeup and all this stuff, right? And they did touch some stuff up with VFX, but he was doing that. And he's like actually like this, I think it was more because he was like kind of fit and like all this stuff, but he doesn't have like a really big following on social media or anything. He's been in a couple other movies and stuff. But have you seen that one meme where it's like a ton of people at the party and there's like the one guy in the corner? He posted that meme with the caption. He's like, none of them know that I'm the Predator.
That poor guy.
It's amazing.
He's just there and everyone. And don't get me wrong, like Amber Midthunder was incredible, right? And I thought that she was amazing in this movie. And then Dakota Beavers, he plays Taabe, who's the main character's brother.
Yep.
And so they were incredible as well. But I just had to make sure that we, shouted this guy out because he's not getting, as much love when, like you said, they did so many practical effects and he was in this big old suit doing these fight scenes and just lots of really cool stuff to go along with it. So I rated the movie 4.5 stars.
Yeah, that blew my mind when I saw it.
And here's the thing, we'll get into it. This story is super simple. The action is straightforward and like cool, and there's just like a lot of stuff going on with it. And like a lot of people, like the thing is like we'll talk about it, and who knows, maybe I'll change. I'll be like, oh, okay, like it's just a 4 or something. But sometimes those movies that it just enthralled me. Like I don't know, like it wasn't like that there was anything so insane or this crazy plot twist or anything, or oh, look at all these symbols, because a lot of times movies are like that and it's like, oh wow, but just like something about this movie, I don't know, it just had me locked in from, like, I don't want to say from beginning to end, like all the way, because yeah, there were definitely points where it dragged and stuff, but I just loved it. And we'll talk about it, but
I think that's what it is for me, and that seems to be the common thread for all the Predator movies, is they are slow until the Predator hits. And when it hits hard.
Yeah.
And so, because I listened to our last podcast, and that was one of my nitpicks from the last one, was like, it's a little bit slow at the beginning, and but once it starts to move and the action starts, it's some of the cool, like, best action. I mean, Predator 1, exact same thing,
Yep.
Kind of slow up to the beginning, even though it has some of the best memes ever from it, and then it just like takes off and hits hard. So
I say we end the
Spoiler-free
non-spoiler section and we jump straight into it and we talk about it. So
let's do it, guys. Spoiler zone ahead.
real quick, I just want to say it's got pretty good reviews. IMDb gave it a 7.2, and the Rotten Tomatoes scores 93% of critics like it, which again is just like, this is a Predator movie, and
you're like, nothing's been
critics
fresh
like
since the
this?
first one.
And audience is only given 78% like it, which was surprising to me.
Yeah, still
That,
pretty good
again,
though. That it's
these-
lower. That's like weird.
It's a
that-
Predator movie, and the critics
You thought
like
that'd
it
be
more
opposite.
than it's just one of those. This happens every once in a while, and every time it happens, I'm like, wait a minute.
You're like, hold up.
This is backwards.
Wait a second.
You realize this is an action franchise.
You're like,
right?
someone put something wrong in the code there. They switched the numbers. Oh, man. All right.
Oh man.
What do we want to start with? Do we just want to kind of go through some of our favorite scenes of the movie and things like that?
I actually do want to.
I know you guys have
Look,
I just sort
I
of
took
more-
notes this time and brought them with me. Normally, I'm just out here like.
both of you guys. Yeah, I'm just here. I'm not winging it. I, thought about a lot of stuff, but
I really like. I want to kick it off with. I like that it's staged in like the 1700s, and that it's a Native American tribe, Comanche, I think specifically. But it's kind of cool to kind of see the interaction of it, then moving into like the senses that are going on with it, right? Like, hey, there's not just a cat out here, a giant ass cat. There is something bigger, something with a huge freaking foot, and they go into it. Maybe I'm going too far too soon, But I really like the way that they set it up. That like you guys know this feeling when you're like doing something, you're like something feels off. Like you know that feeling, and that's what the lead character she had right there was like a feeling, and she's like trying to explain to other people, and like it's fine, it's just the cat, and then they get up in the tree.
Everybody thinks that she just wants to prove herself. No one wants to believe that there's something bigger out there. You're like, oh yeah, you're just trying to prove that you're one of us. You're a hunter like us, whatever. Yeah. It's just a bear. Like I'm not scared of a bear, and she's having this like hard time convincing people that there's more than that out there.
Yeah, that was what was freaking crazy. And then you get in there and you start seeing the snake going away, like the predator taking the snake, and then it's like the predator and the cat are like hunting, but the predator's hunting the cat, I think, / the people once it figures out that it's an enemy type thing. And it's so cool how they kind of set that up. I know it felt slow, but I liked the setup. I felt like it was a healthy setup for me.
Well, I like the setup as well. You mentioned the time period. I really like the time period, and they sort of, they had we're in the Great Plains, 1719 or whatever, right? And I really liked it because it's interesting because at first you go in and it's full on, we're with the, this girl who's in a Native American tribe, and she's there, and she's, hunting, and she's doing all this stuff with her dog, right? And then all of a sudden the dog's tail gets caught in that trap, right? And so I was sort of like, whoa, like it kind of like threw me for a little jolt because I'm like, this isn't like I'm like, is this like their trap? Like, are they taking, like, did they buy some like traps from like, the trappers and like the frontiersmen sort of people who were there? And so I was like, whoa, this is like a little different. So it definitely did a good job of like showing you sort of what area you're in. And obviously later on, there's conflict and they run into the big, camps of the Frenchmen and all the people who are out, exploring the Great Plains and everything like that. But I really liked the setting that it was in. But then, yeah, the exact same thing where it's like, okay, like there's something else out there, and they're like, hey, we've lived out here for forever, we've hunted, like, yeah, there's a lot of big scary stuff, like we gotta kill and eat to survive. But they're like, you're just, you're wildin'. And even though it does sound crazy, I feel like I would almost be like with those people, not because I'm like, hey, you just want to fit in. I'd be like, we've lived out here for so long, like we know what's happening, and they don't know that literally something that's never been on the entire planet before has descended to hunt them, literally. So
what a cool look though about comfort and knowing and this big unknown. Like that's what I like, is like the change in unknown and that feeling that's right there with it. That's what they're trying to give you, is that feeling of the unknown is happening. So good. That's all I want to say about that, Vince. I've been talking a lot about this, but like, what do you have to say about that setup? Did you like it, or was it
I love it. I've been saying this for a long time. They've been getting Predator wrong for forever. Like when it comes down to it, the core of Predator 1 was giant Arnold losing everything. His muscles didn't matter, his giant guns didn't matter, explosions don't matter. What it came down to was him and his intellect and using what he has to survive. And they took that concept, and they were just like, oh, that's what a Predator movie is. Let's do this in a time period where that's all they have, is literally they've trained their entire lives for survival. Like that's what this Comanche tribe does, right? They're hunters, they're gatherers, they go day to day protecting the tribe. There's the war chief, is that what they're called?
Yep.
Who go out, and if there's a big bear, or if there's something that's threatening the tribe, they go out and stop it. Or if one of their people get killed or disappear, they go out to help him, bring him back. That's all this movie is. Like, what a simple, genius, easy concept. Like, I can't believe, I should stop complaining, but I can't believe that the last movie went from this, like, over-the-top, 10-foot tall predator that's, like, altering his DNA and, like, doing all this weird stuff, when it's just, like, the concept of Predator is so simple.
Bring it back, like, the different planet and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and now it's, like, Earth, Predator versus, like, these Indians. Like this troop of Native Americans, right?
Yeah. Sorry. It's simple. It's so easy. Like that's all we needed. And the characters and like you said, Josh, like the story doesn't need to be anything big. It just this one girl, Naru, who's trying to prove herself, and the way that she does it is to hunt something that is hunting her, and that's all she wants to do. She wants to prove that she's as capable as the rest of the guys in the tribe who are hunting her, and that's it. And throw her out into the thing, and then let the weird stuff start to happen. It's the same as the original movie. Like they're out doing their one mission, and then weird stuff starts to happen. The predator starts to show up. It's an amazing concept. It's so simple. Just keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and the idea isn't so far flung that you couldn't drop a predator in Europe, for instance, next time, or in Siberia with Russians, or in Africa, like.
or like they did in Predators, like the Yakuza versus the freaking Predator. Like,
Yeah. Well, I saw a tweet that was like, if you've seen Prey, like they need to drop them in like a 1400s like feudal Japan type thing. And
Yeah,
like
it would be
that would be
so cool.
amazing. And so I agree with you. They need to stick to like what we've gotten accustomed into so many action movies is this big ramp, like big over the top, and it's the same with Marvel. It's the same with so many films. Are like bigger is better, blow it up, get a huge. And I'm like, bring it down to something that's more relatable at the same time, because it's like, who's not been walking through the woods and been like, something's looking at me, right? Like at some point in time. And so like, what a way to bring in like an actual primal fear, then bring in like predators are already big in general. They're bigger than humans, but they're not immortal. They're not Goliath.
And that's another thing that I loved about this one, which kind of brings me into my first topic is, I mean, if you we can continue talking about the story if you want, but I want to discuss just the specific predator in this one.
Please.
Well, yeah.
Because that, again, this is what I talked about for a long time in the last episode, is like the thing that makes this franchise, for me, is literally this one character design. The Predator is one of the most
So
badass, cool-looking characters I've ever seen, monsters, whatever you want to call it, in cinema history. And every one of the movies stands because this thing that they created is so cool. And I want to know your guys' opinion. Did this new Predator, they're calling it online the Feral Predator, top the other versions of the Predators that you guys have seen?
I don't know about top. I just feel like it was so interesting that they not only said, okay, we're going to take this back to an earlier time, they made it very apparent that even though this species is very much further advanced and they have this different technology than the human species does, they made it very clear that this is definitely further back in the evolution and the technology of the original of the Predators, right? Because he has the sort of stuff, and I don't remember if it was in the one we watched or a different one, but it was similar in that it had the like the laser thing that would shoot. But in the other movies, like you have that laser thing and it's just like and it like shoots
like plasma bolts,
exactly, stuff like that. Whereas this one, it was like, even though it was very sleek metal and stuff like that, it was almost as if it were its own version of arrows and things like that, right? It's got the little lights that go, it shoots and it tracks, so it's still very advanced, but it's still very far behind from what the other Predators were. And so I don't know if I would say like, oh, it's like better. I just loved that they also took the Predator, I don't know, should we call them like the Predator species also back a few hundred years as well. And we said, okay, they're also still learning and doing stuff, and it's their first time on this. So yeah, if we're calling it the Feral Predator, I feel like it was very cool because while it was still technologically advanced, I felt it was still very raw. And especially since we were in sort of that story of they're just coming here to hunt, and we're like with the Native Americans, and he's with all these animals trying to like attack them and feel them out. And so it just got so like raw and down to the basics with how he hunted and how he did different things and how he scaled up what technology he used in order to be able to fight these different animals as he, sort of like you mentioned, went up the food chain. I really liked it. I don't know. And I haven't watched all of the Predator movies, so I might not be the best judge of it. But I like what they did with it. So who knows if I'd put it above another one. I don't know if I could say that.
Okay. So this is of Xenopedia talking about the Feral Predator. Owning to his name, the Feral Predator presumably possesses a lesser intelligence to his cousin and perhaps a larger degree of savage behavior. And it preferred close combat, which is kind of cool. I think this Predator stacks up a little bit more to me. Like, I like that, like, literally, yeah, like, just wild, more hand-to-hand combat, wanting to be close and on the action, which I think is kind of cool, too, like, especially for the time period. I think maybe when they're, like, searching and saying, we're going to find the perfect member of our community to go to Earth and fight at this time period, maybe a scouting mission went before, looked kind of like, where's the advancement in technology? Who can we drop type thing? I don't know how that all works. Maybe you know more about it.
Nope.
But I think it's very fascinating to think that if they sent this Feral Predator over there who lesser intelligent, maybe less quality gear, but still had some pretty freaking cool stuff. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear so much. But it's more like I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was brutal, cool. The net,
I was gonna say that.
so cool. The bear fight, so cool. Like these things that you're kind of like interesting. Why did it do it in that way? Because it's the feral predator. Makes so much more sense. I had to look it up really quick to see. If that's the idea and what people are guessing behind it, love it. Want more of it. Bring it on type thing.
What do you think, Vince?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm with you guys. I think this design is a little inspired. Like I said, we took a big step back in the last movie and then a big giant leap forward in this one. I love the expansion. I mean, the original Predator is always going to be the OG, right? But I feel like with this one, they really took a unique perspective on it. They removed the solid mask that's covering up his face so you can see the mandibles through the mask. You know, they shrunk him down a little bit lower so he's not as tall. So it does you almost believe that a human could, you know, fight hand to hand with this thing. And then you see like the amount of strength that this thing still has, even though he's only like a foot taller than us instead of like 3 feet taller than us or something, you know? So it's like, I don't know, they did so many good things, and especially for this, the vibe of this movie, it fits so perfectly of just like the return to basics, return to nature that, you know, this Native American tribe has this connection with their surroundings and with the, you know, their animal life and everything. This predator kind of feels the same way, where he's just kind of this like basic feral berserker, you know? And he wants to, like you said, Casey, he wants to get in there. He wants to use these, like, really cool weapons, like his freaking claw knives that pop out or the net. He doesn't rely on these over-the-top technological steps that they've made. He wants to be in it. He wants to prove himself physically, not just in, you know, not strategically. He wants to prove himself physically, and he's not scared to get, like, cut up and hurt. Because this predator takes a freaking beating. It does
Multiple
not
times.
budge.
Yeah. Well, what I thought about here is he has his mask, his helmet, whatever thing, and he has his wrist. That's pretty much the extent of his super hyper advanced technology. Then also, he's more like the Wolverine. Like if we think about like, let's go like talk about like a Marvel character really quick. The Wolverine. He's just in there to just take a beating, and he gets back up and does it again. Like he's healing himself. He has like medicine. He's not probably perfectly healing himself. He's just like fixing the cut, closing it up, whatever. But he's just going for it.
And I love the parallels with that too, between Naru and the Predator. Like the Predator gets beat up, and it shows him like healing himself with whatever herbs he has from his planet, and then Naru gets her ankle caught in a trap, and it shows her at the same time like healing herself up, like proving that like she really is kind of Earth's parallel to the galaxy's best hunter. You know, she has learned her whole life how to hunt, how to survive, just like this predator has learned how to hunt, how to survive. And so you can tell that there's going to be this like big conflict at the end where they're going to like actually compete with each other and see who.
Yeah.
And it turns out she's smarter than a beaver.
That was a cool line. Also, really quick, I forgot to bring up the shield. That is so cool.
So cool.
Yes.
Sorry, Josh.
No,
I
you're
just
good,
had to
you're
bring that in.
No, and trust me, I want to talk about that more as we talk about like because that whole final fight sequence with everyone before the 1v1 sort of went down. I loved kind of like how we talked about already so much about how kind of savage and feral and just like down to earth in quotation marks like this predator is, so much that when he's fighting, obviously he just takes out the snake and skins it with no problem, right? And the whole buffalo thing we learned later wasn't actually him, right? Because I was like, that was kind of weird. Like skins all these buffalo, like that's kind of crazy, but it wasn't him. So, and then when he fights like the wolf, right? He's not just like this completely, because he is obviously huge and strong, and he wants to prove himself physically, like we mentioned. But he doesn't just like take out this wolf with no problem, right? Like the wolf gets in there and bites him, and just one of the coolest shots, just like that wolf gnashing its teeth, and it's got that neon green blood flow, and you're just like, oh yeah, like this is what I came here for. And so stuff like that, when he does that, when he fights the bear later on, he doesn't just win. There's almost one part where I thought that he was going to like retreat, right? And I want to talk about that scene specifically a lot more in depth, so I won't get too far into it, but it's just, I do like it how he's not just, I mean, once you get to the part where he's like fighting like a lot of these humans and he like gets their guns out of the way and stuff, he's just so, and I did love how they kept a lot of like because they did take him down to a lot more like, just like we've mentioned, just like a really more like primitive like level, but they still kept a lot of the things that made the predator, right? The thermal vision, everything like that. How they still kept it the predator. They didn't take it too far where it's like just a guy.
The thermal vision, I just have to call it out. Like going back and seeing that thermal vision again, like gives you flashbacks to, like different predator stuff, and you're
Thermal
like,
vision, like the clicking of the mouth and everything.
I hate that sound. It like so.
Are you kidding me? That's the best sound effect.
It's
ever.
a great sound effect, but it's like it like hair on neck standing type moment. That's why I hate it.
So I got a quick quote to read. I'm pretty sure it was the director, Dan Trachtenberg. I think is how you say his name. I'm pretty sure this was him, but I didn't write it down whether or not it was. So if it's not, I'm sorry. But this is just talking about the Predator specifically and the mask specifically, because the mask is so unique compared to the other ones. Like we kind of see in Predator 3, kind of the step towards this style of like in Predator 3, they had like the jaws of the things that they've killed kind of like attached to their mask from the outside, so it looks a little more primal and stuff.
Yeah.
This one, they took it a step further and they actually made this mask like a straight up skull, which according to IMDb, people are saying it's probably a river ghost skull that he killed. A river ghost apparently is one of the monsters from Predator 3, Predators, that we watched. You see a dead body of it, and it's very reminiscent to that. Don't know if that's like official, but people are like theorizing that that's what it's made of, was one of his kills. So this is the quote. It says, "You mentioned skull mask. That was one of the earliest ideas. We wanted to suggest our creature was much more ferocious. It's a little bit stripped down, but still embraces the code of what we know a predator to hunt by. It's a trophy hunter. We just thought, wouldn't it be cool if it wears its trophy on its face rather than just on its hip? I think we happened upon something very exciting, though, and that's why we kept the mandibles exposed, which were ironically predator, and it allowed us to be engaged with the emotionality of the predator even while the mask was on, which is something that the other films don't get a chance to do, and it really does. It makes that predator able to like scream to the sky or something. You see the mandibles in the mouth just like pop open. You know, it's just everything they do with the predator is just such a cool character design, and I can't stop talking about it.
Well, what I like is that there's a good amount of thought into the design and how it interacts with the world around it. But like I think we brought this up. It wasn't so over the top. It was kind of but it was kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It was better to me, and it wasn't overcomplicated. It was just like, here comes bad guy. Here comes the top dog. And you got to fight. And I like that. I don't know how else to say it. I'm just like, that's what I'm hyped on. So I want to talk about the French camp scene really quick here. The fight in the French camp really quick. What happens? So Naru and her brother get caught, right? And they decide to use them as bait. The French do. And holy crap, the way that they set this up. So I was taken by surprise because, right, like at the first of it, horses running off, the guy's looking behind, killed, whatever. And then all of a sudden they're like buried underneath. They catch him with a trap on his foot, and like they're like throwing nets over him. And then like I brought up earlier, the net that he throws out, it's like crazy. But like that for me wasn't the most rewatchable scene of this film, and I want to say that. But it was for me one of the best captured films of scene because it's foggy, it's like burnt, it's like they really set up that moment really well for me. I saw a practical effects scene from it, and I want to bring this up because I know you guys like practical effects a ton. Not so much me. I'm not really a practical effects guy, but I have to bring. So I'm pointing. I'm so excited. But they had like different wires and cables set up on the actor who's the predator guy, and he gets like flung into the air, like and drops down like that jump. That was real. That's like they straight up like connected him to some way, and each cable is only designed to pull him in such a way, so it can help him land. But he's so big that he just. And also, this predator is only 7 feet tall, so he's just barely taller than the average person.
I love that.
But yeah, I think you briefly talked about this, so I'm sorry if I've like missed it in a way. But I really want to just bring it up that it's like it was exciting for me, that scene. Not the most rewatchable for me, but definitely like a great scene, and I think that was one of the best parts of this film.
And something else I love that was so simple, but it just kind of drove the story home, right? We talked about how the story was simple because it just got down to the basics of, you know, man, woman versus the predator, right? And what comes down to it in like a battle and how you're going to stay alive and defeat it. And that's really all it needed to be. But you have to have some inkling of the story. And I felt like it was so simple and smart, just the whole relationship and the way that the brother and sister talk to each other and they are with each other just throughout the entire story, right? And right after the big scene that's all foggy and stuff like that, before she has to fight it one-on-one, they have this scene where, she's sort of like, oh, shoot, like, how do I, and the predator's coming to get her, and then her brother shows up, and he does some damage before he inevitably succumbs to the predator and ends up dying.
I have to say, that is one of the cooler Comanche things, because he got his horse.
Yep.
And that's super cool right there.
His horse, when he knocked, like, he cut him pretty good, and he knocked the mask, or the
face mask off.
Whatever,
the mask
off, and it's got the blood on it, and she's like, oh man, I gotta take this and run, and he goes and fights with her. And then that line that they brought up a couple of times, again, it's super simple, it's nothing crazy, you're not like, whoa, insane, but the one that they mentioned earlier in the film, he says at his death, and then she tells the predator, she's like, this is how far you come, like, no more. I don't remember the exact quote.
Okay, I noted that. Okay. I noted that.
I'm ready, because I loved it, how they brought it back, and it wasn't anything crazy, but it was just simple, and it struck home the part of the story that was that way. And again, I love the action and everything and how it came down to it so much, and it just worked for me so well, which is why I rated it so high. But just sort of that drove home the family side of the story, which I loved.
Yes. This is as far as you go. No more. Cool thing. Yes. Also, the way that the confidence of the siblings, super cool. Need I say more? You've got it.
Because they go through a lot of the movie, and they have their little back and forth where she's trying to, because her whole story, right, is that she's just wanting to fit in with the hunters, right? She's wanting to be one of those. She says, I can do this. I'm not just a gatherer. I can help the tribe in this way. And all these guys, you're not going to be able to do this and whatever, right? And so when it comes down to hunting the mountain lion, she ends up getting saved by her brother, because her plan, which ends up, in the end we find out it ends up actually working, because after she got knocked out from falling out of the tree and hitting her head on the rock, we find out that her brother used her plan as well and was able to take down the mountain lion. But, during that scene, it didn't actually end up happening. She was able to complete her, I forgot what they ended up calling it, but her rite of passage, right, by fighting the predator, right? And so she not only proved that she is more than capable of being one of the hunters, the lead one, pretty much. I'd be surprised if going forward she didn't take over stuff like that for the tribe, because it was just incredible what they ended up doing. And even though it's sad because so many people were lost and she loses her brother especially, she more than, and again, this is the simple side of the story versus the actual fighting with the predator, but she more than proves her worth of trying to become that huntress, the person that she wants to be, proves it to everyone by defeating something more dangerous than anything on the earth, more dangerous than the bears they've fought, than the wolves, anything like that. So
I really liked her brother, Taabe, is that his name?
Yep,
I think so.
Taabe.
I really liked his kind of story arc too, where he kind of, when the relationship with them is never bad, he's always supportive of her. He just kind of doubts her, and I think it's kind of a pride thing at the same time, because he uses her plan to, he admits it towards the end that he uses her plan to bring down the mountain lion.
Yep.
Right. And when they're tied up together, he actually admits to her, because he thinks that they're the bait. I mean, that's what they're set up to be, and he's like, oh, we're in trouble, we're the bait, we're gonna die. And she's like, no, we're not going to, because this thing doesn't hunt. He wants a challenge. And he admits to her, he's like, that's the moment where he realizes, oh, okay, there's more. He lets his pride down, and he admits, you have always been able to see things that I haven't been able to see, and it's all thanks to you that we brought down the tiger. I used the cat. I used your plan, and again, you're going to save us here. So he's like, you haven't proven yourself through your, rite of passage yet or anything, but I should stop doubting you. Kind of what he's saying there, and from there on, it's just they're working together. They figured things out, and just kind of.
And two other quick things that I loved with it as well. I loved we talked about his character. Obviously, one of my favorite characters has got to be the dog, of course. Sari, right?
Yes.
I love that he was there with her the whole film, and he was such
Saved
a
her
good
a couple of
dog.
times.
He did save her a couple of times. He helped provide distraction from the bear and all this other stuff, right? And in the end, he doesn't die. Love it. That's what we love to see.
Yes, there's a website called "Does the Dog Die" or "Does the Dog Live"
Right.
type thing. So this can go down on it. The dog does live. The wolf doesn't. The dog does. So man's best friend prevails. But
Sorry,
I
was
love
a great
that.
character. And then my other favorite thing that sort of, it came into play later in the movie and everything, but her axe and her skill with the axe, and then her making sort of like that axe with the line on it so she could throw and bring it back and everything like that. Such a cool, but like just like having like a melee style weapon like that, but with such a cool different sort of thing that you don't usually see, right? Throwing it, she does that at the beginning, but when she does the thing with the string so she can throw and bring it back and do all this stuff, very, very cool. I liked what they did with that.
So I have a fun fact and a nitpick to go along with that.
Ready.
Fun fact, the director said that the shield, the Predator's shield, and the axe being able to throw and come back, both inspired by the new God of War video game, that he kind of saw that and thought it was really cool, so he incorporated it into the movie.
That's so cool, actually.
My nitpick, it's a little unbelievable that she could throw that axe around like that. Like it just perfectly comes back.
Yeah, because you feel like it's so
like,
dangerous when you
yeah,
yank
exactly.
that back. Just to
It's like I'm willing to suspend my disbelief, but at the same time, just like
you got to feel like at least once you're
I
like,
don't
oh
know.
shoot.
But it's fine. Like it doesn't bother me enough that I'm like, oh, that's so stupid. How do they? I'm like it's a cool idea, but in a kind of movie based in reality, kind of like this is that has like some type of I don't know real physics.
Yeah.
This axe doesn't really have real physics. It's kind of like Captain America's shield, kind of a thing. It's like just don't ask questions. It's cool.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the part like where like that's the throw we want. Like it's like the fishing story, right? The fish is always bigger than you expected it. Like the story, every time they retell it, it gets bigger. So I think from the beginning, she's recounting her experience because I think that she talks about like there once came a creature type thing. I think that's like an intro thing or at the outro. I can't remember, but it's like her retelling the story. I feel like the experience is real, but at the same time, I don't doubt that like maybe back in the day they had some skills that we just don't really have. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know, man. Vince, you have a new segment to this podcast that I want to bring up, and I want you to talk about because you were inspired to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about it. Like we always talk about like our favorite scenes, and I'm just like, why don't we just name this? Like we have the title of our podcast, the Pause, Rewind, and Play podcast, and we don't have any part of the show that like references the rewind section of our Pause, Rewind, Play. Like that's like the idea is like we watch these movies, and there's part of these movies that we want to pause, rewind it, and play it again, right? So instead of like having the most rewatchable scene or whatever, I'm like our thing is kind of like what's the most rewindable section of the movie? Where do we want to rewind and rewatch? So that's what I want to like incorporate into the show a little bit is just like what's your favorite scene? What's the most rewindable section of this movie? You guys have a favorite?
I do. Do you?
Yeah. I've already, touched and goed a few times with this scene because I wanted to talk about it again. Both Naru's and Sari's fight with the bear and then the predator coming back and fighting the bear. That was my most rewatchable scene. And was it either of your guys's?
Nope.
No? Okay, so I'll just go into it really quick so you guys can do yours, but just I loved it because obviously there were so many things in it that were really small, but they were smart, right? Sari leads her to say, hey, like there's this predator, like come watch, like come look or something, and so she leads her. She's there and she's like, oh no, the bear's there and it's eating a deer or something, right? And then subtly, just with like little camera moves and stuff, what they do, they show that the wind switches direction, so all of a sudden the wind's blowing from them to the bear, and the bear can tell, right? Because it's going one way and the bear's just chilling there, and then all of a sudden it shows the wind change, and then the bear knows they're there, right? And he goes and he's trying to get him, and he goes around and he's getting up to him. It's getting really scary, and the dog runs away, and he goes to chase the dog, and just this whole thing happens, and it's super, super crazy. And then the predator shows up, and he adds a whole nother level to it, right? And so she's able to scamper away and run, even though the bear's chasing her, and get into the beaver dam, and the bear's there freaking pushing on it, and it's crazy. And then all of a sudden you hear the clicking, right, that we talked about, and it's just, you're like, oh shoot, this is crazy. And they're there, and they start fighting, right? And like we talked about with the wolf scene and everything, the predator isn't completely like over powerful over everything, right? The first part of this fight, the bear, he gets some good scratches, good hits in, and he ends up knocking the predator down. And he also sort of has some of that same, the neon green, like blood in his teeth and his claws and stuff. And he knocks him down into the river, and she's just watching this from the inside of this beaver dam, just completely terrified, right? Can you imagine, like, a predator and a grizzly bear freaking...
Or even better for her, just like this invisible thing, like
right, exactly.
Like she can barely even see it, just tearing apart like one of the biggest.
And that's like where it comes down to my most rewatchable moment. Number one, so the grizzly bear sort of beats the predator down where he's in the river. He gets back up. The grizzly bear sees sort of that he gets back up because he has sort of the green blood. He has some of the bear's blood from scratching on it, right? And the bear comes charging back at it, right? And he hits it, and he cracks his neck when he hits him. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, because like, this bear is charging, and it's not like, oh, I got you, and I'm going to stab you with my thing. He's still just so muscular, so powerful. Yeah. He punches the bear and snaps his neck, like, to kill it, right? And that was, like, the number two, like, most rewatchable of this scene. But then the number one was, he ends up, like cutting his stomach or something like that. Raises it over his head, and the blood comes down. He's still invisible, right? He's got the camouflage going, but the outline of his face and what are they called? The teeth? The mandibles, and just him roaring as that blood flows down over him. It's the craziest looking scene. That was my scene that I like had chills, and I was like, this is so good. Just like watching, like, because I'm not trying to be like too like gross or disgusting, but just like with how raw this movie is, him saying I won this battle, like I'm apex predator over this sort of thing, even though it put up a good fight against him, got some good licks on. He kills it, he slices it so there's blood, and he lifts it over his head, and we get it from Naru's point of view, where even if she wasn't there, he'd still be doing this, saying I won this battle, and the blood flowing, outlining his character while the rest of him is still camouflaged. Sent chills up my spine, dude. I love that scene so much.
That was some BDE right there in that scene. Like, that's what that was.
What is BDE?
Do you want to cut it out?
Vincent's big dick energy.
Oh, okay, I know that. I've never heard it, like, done just the letters.
The BDE? I was, like, trying to avoid saying dick. It's fine. But, like, no, it's straight up just kind of, like, that is a very rewatchable moment. I did rewatch that, actually, twice. And the reason is because actually a predator inadvertently saves Naru.
Yep.
Like, so he set up his own demise, which is kind of cool.
And this is his first, like, contact with the human, right? He never. I think he might have seen her swimming before, or maybe that's.
No, he sees it after, because she swims away.
Contact. So he does feel like he just took down the alpha predator, and he sees this like other thing. It's like,
he's like, wait, what?
What's next?
100%.
Always looking for what's next.
Yeah. That is Josh's very first of many most rewatchable scene of Prey. How do we say it?
Rewindable? I don't know.
The most rewindable scene.
The rewindable
It doesn't really
scene.
matter. We'll just call this section the rewind. You can call it rewatchable.
The rewind. That's my rewind.
I love
the most
that.
rewatchable scene.
What's yours, Vince?
This one's hard because, like, the entire second half of the movie, like, it just goes from one to the next, one rewindable moment to the next, starting with it's just as soon as the predator starts to go berserk is when it starts, right?
Yeah.
So I think my rewatchable moment is Casey's already talked about it. It's the scene with the ashes, the ash forest.
Okay.
And when all the ashes are hitting his shield, and it just slowly comes into view, and you just get his back, and it's like slowly panning up on him, and then it shows him like touching the ashes and like smells it, and he just kills everyone, just goes into berserk, and you just see exactly what this predator is capable of, and that nobody there stands a chance. Like, physically, nobody stands a chance against this thing. It's so freaking good. It's so cool.
Leaping tree to tree. Oh my gosh. Oh, sorry.
So I absolutely love that. I guess I just have to shout out a few rewindable moments because this whole thing is rewindable. And we've already talked about half of these. Naru and her brothers fight against the predator. Some of the coolest fight when he jumps up and chucks that freaking javelin right through the back of him, and it just like sticks through. So freaking cool. And then I even liked this the second time around. I would probably rewind that first moment where Naru is tied up behind the stump and the predator comes up and starts killing all the other tribesmen. Like that moment right there too is just like you're seeing what the Native Americans are capable of, because they put up a pretty good fight. All of them, everybody who goes against the predator puts up a pretty good fight, but in the end it's just not quite good enough, you know.
Yeah.
So pretty much my most rewindable moment is the last like 40 minutes of the movie.
Just rewind that
Accepted.
whole thing.
And then I just have to shout out that last fight scene. It's not as good as the rest in my opinion. Like it is still really, really cool, but it's just visually really cool. The glowing blood all over the place. You know, that green glow just makes everything visually really
dark
cool.
sort of glade and stuff like that. And I don't know what yours is, Casey, so please, like, don't let me get too far into it if it's yours. But I was about to say we couldn't go without mentioning that final scene, because it does get, number one, it gets to the point we've been talking about of the whole what happens when it really is just you versus the predator, and what sort of intellect and other things you can do. And just, you know, the way that she set it up. Yeah, when Casey mentioned him jumping tree to tree, that was sort of my favorite part as well. And then she does like a freaking like backflip off of one of the trees, like, and the predator goes to hit it, and there's like spikes sticking out, and it gets him too. Wow, just
again,
so many things.
Going from that parallel of like seeing her healing herself, seeing the predator heal himself, you also get that same thing with the action sequences. Like you see the predator just tear apart this French trappers or whatever, just kill everybody, and then the next scene, I think it's like the next scene, you see Naru going to save her dog, and she does the same thing. Like she goes up against these French trappers, and you just see what she's capable of, and she just kicks the crap out of everybody there and saves her dog. So it's just like you keep seeing these parallels between them. Like they both are the most skilled hunters. You know, it's cool.
So we talked about my most rewindable scene already. So I want to highlight it really quick for me, which is the brother-sister fight. Like that moment
I wanted to talk
right
about
there.
It.
Yes. And not only is it because it's so cool that as siblings they figured out a way to, like we talked about, we broke it down. They kind of like, the brother humbled himself so sister and him could work together better. And he let sister lead, which is super cool, like understanding, recognizing. But when they separate after they escape from the tree, he goes for the horses. But she's like, I'm going to get the dog, right? But he essentially comes in with his plan after she fights all these dudes and is kind of like in this moment. And he just comes in, boom, boom, boom. It's like the jab, jab, right hook type thing, right? So that's what happened. He was the jabs in this, and she comes in, finishes that sucker up. And then just I really like the final part of that fighting scene, I guess the whole movie, where she lures him to that pit, that swamp thing where she almost drowns, and sets up his mask and figures out how to kind of focus it on his face. Don't know how real that could be or how it'd work or how she figured it out, but like very cool. Like,
it's cool how he kind of does his thing of being the hunter and fights him and allows her to do her thing, which is like see more than what's going on.
The bigger picture.
Yeah, get the bigger picture and use that in the future to finish.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up the jab, jab, right hook, because when you're boxing, you're using the jabs to figure out what your opponent's going to do as they react. And so when the big slamma type thing is her, like, with the full picture, how to set it up and how to complete it.
I want to see you hit me with the right hook, Casey.
Huh?
I want to see you hit me with the right hook. I'm ready. But the only other thing I wanted to mention from the brother-sister fight scene that I loved was, and again, we mentioned, you know, some like tiny little things that could be touched up with a bigger budget or anything with CGI when it actually ends up coming off. When he hits him and he's got the blood that flows off and the mask falls down, and then I don't remember exactly what it is, if he's picked something up or what happens, but then you just get that close-up of the full face without any of the mask, and you have that. And his teeth, which I forgot again.
I love that she rips off one of his mandibles.
Yes. Oh, yeah, and that part, when he's got her and she just rips it out and stabs him. But no, and you just get like that full close-up look of his face, and he lets out a roar and stuff. Like it adds to everything that's going on. Like you said, the whole final 40 minutes of the movie is just, it ramps up and ramps up, so and the aesthetics of the whole thing is crazy. It's insane that so many of these scenes happen like one after another, but because they have the fog, or we're in this glade, or we're out in the plains, has a different aesthetic, different color palette, different feel.
The cool moment in the tall weeds where they're hunting each other, and you see him running, and you just see an outline of the invisible predator running from above.
Yes. Oh my, because it's just the line of grass going. Yeah. And then some things that are just like so jarring, like when she brings the predator head back to camp after she's defeated it, and it's just this beautiful shot that you can see in literally any, like a History Channel movie, except for this neon green blood coming from the head, and you're
she's
just
got like neon green all over the blood
well,
that she puts on her face.
Yes, exactly, because she has a classic, Native American face paint, which they would do a lot of times with blood from different prey that they had killed, and she does it with the blood of the predator, which is so much of the arc of the movie was focused on that sort of image, her with that on her face, and it was just a gorgeous, beautiful way to end the movie. That she accomplished what she wanted. They lost a lot along the way because how could you not, with her brother and everything else going along, but
they lost a lot.
But she ended up doing it, and she was the apex predator.
I got nothing else to add.
So I just have like 2 fun facts, Easter eggs, and then final thoughts.
Ready.
Okay.
So this movie debuted #1 on Hulu. It is the biggest movie premiere in the streaming service's history.
I watched it the day it came out.
I also watched the day it came out. One of my biggest nitpicks is that I couldn't see it in theaters. I was really disappointed. Cool. Really disappointed. I would have paid for this one even if it dropped day and day on Hulu. I would have gone to the theater. My second biggest nitpick is I kind of wish it was all done in Comanche. Like, I love how it started out in Comanche, and then it kind of felt kind of weird that it went into English, and I got real excited when I heard there was a Comanche version of it, and I tried to watch it in that, and it just sounded like it was poorly recorded a little bit. It just sounded a little tinny, so I couldn't do it, which is a problem. Anyway, that's all for nitpicks. Other Easter eggs, the flintlock pistol, dated 1715 with the name Raphael Adolini. It shows up in Predator 2, apparently at the end.
Interesting.
When Danny Glover ends up killing the Predator, other Predators show up and give him that pistol. So somehow the Predators get it back, or get that pistol. So that's kind of a fun little Easter egg for the future.
That means something could happen. They have space to build. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And then Naru, when she says, do it now, it's a reference. Arnold says that in the first one. And also when Taabe says, if it bleeds, we can kill it. That's
right.
Like the tagline from the original.
Exactly.
So fun little Easter eggs.
I love the sorry, you were just talking about little tiny things. I found it humorous, the moment where, the guy had tried to teach her about the gun, and so she's like, okay, and while Tommy's fighting it, she goes to, try to use the gun for it, and so she's like, not too little, not too much, as she's dumping like a whole thing of gunpowder in there. I was like, oh my gosh.
Too much. Slow it down.
I mean, she's never used one, so how could she know? But I just love like that, during this intense fight sequence, just like that tiny little bit of humor, like nothing too crazy, just like not too little, not too much. It's just like, oh man.
So my final thoughts on this movie, it was great. Might be the best one, in my opinion. I gotta rewatch Predator 3, because I really like that one for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Gotta rewatch it to see, but it's like I'm waiting back and forth.
Are you saying best one of like the sequel,
The franchise.
or of the whole thing, including the first one?
Yeah, I don't love the franchise, the first one like everyone does. Like everyone talks like the first one's this masterpiece, and it is a pretty incredible action movie. But for some reason, it just doesn't.
It doesn't resonate as much.
It just doesn't do it like it does everyone else. That's my hot take, I guess. But I just have to say, like, this is. I hope that Hollywood recognizes that the failure from the last one and how well this one is, the critical reviews and everything are so good with it, and I hope that they recognize that, not just with the Predator movies, like hopefully this kind of goes with everything, but specifically the Predators movies, keep it small, keep it low budget, fix up those VFX a little bit, put it in the theater, and use those practical effects. You can make money off of this franchise. You just got to do it right. So hopefully they learned, because this movie was great. It was really cool.
It just all clicked for me. Like I said, I rated it 4.5 stars, and I said maybe I'd change it. I wouldn't. Like I said, we talked about so many things. It was so simple, but there was such good raw action, and it just flowed so well for me. The story was so simple, and for some reason, it just hit, and I just loved it. And so yeah, it's up there rated, above some other movies that I've really, really loved this year. But I just loved so much about this one. I'll watch it again. I know I will. So it'll probably be up there. It'll definitely be in my top 10 movies of the year. Who knows where it'll end up on the list once we get to that.
I would rate this film as rewatchable. and one that I might just come back to casually throughout the year type thing. I do that with films. I love that kind of stuff. And all I have to say about it is really keep it up. Do it again. Like, don't overcomplicate the film. Don't overcomplicate the predator. And, like, really thinking about it, a bear is not complicated. It eats, it shits, it sleeps, it hunts. So make the predator not complicated. Like, that's all I have to say. Like, make it interesting, but don't overcomplicate it. And Vince, I'm right there with you. In my opinion, this might be the best of the series. And I can say that with more confidence than I thought I would. So yeah, you guys have not only made me want to watch it on a bigger screen. I wanna watch it on the projector. I wanna like blow it up and watch it big. But I did watch it on TV, not like my phone. So, but I still want to see it bigger. Now you're right. I wanted to see it in the theater. Definitely would have enjoyed that. But I got nothing. That's it. Those are my final thoughts. In closing, guys, any last remarks?
Just put in that predator noise right here.
Okay.
No, I got
Just
it.
that. Just let us know what you guys thought of it. Obviously, this is a movie that's available to stream right now on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, please, I mean, if you listen to all of this and haven't watched it, I hope you're convinced to go watch it now. And if you have watched it, I don't know, go watch it again and just let us know once you've seen it, your thoughts about it. You can message us, on any of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and just let us know what you thought about this movie, things that you thought maybe we got right with our takes on it, things that we got wrong or missed. You're like, no, this is the coolest part of the movie when the wolf spills his guts or anything else like that. Just let us know because we want to hear from you guys as well.
Well, perfect. This is as far as our review goes. It goes no further.